about now, right?
Okay, there we go. Anyhow, so, okay, is this better for everybody? I hope I can see it now, so it's a lot better for me. Basically, this is our cast damper valves, which will be the first part of our presentation here, as you can see on the side. Our key applications, most of our blower and cast damper stuff is used for blower equipment, any type of air control management system, compressors, etc. It's used a lot in, we're used a lot or sold a lot as OEM equipment to a lot of centrifugal blower manufacturers and compressor people. They're used a lot for in compressor stations and that sort of thing. Our cast dampers available in about four different types of seats. Swing through that we use a lot for just modulating and control applications. We also have an angle seat when we're handling some dust or dirty materials. Tadpole and also step seats for better shutoff. And we have a wide variety of shaft configurations to meet anybody's application. Next. Okay, here we go into a little bit more. They're showing you different types of seats. We show three different designs of our seats. At the far left would be our standard, I believe, swing through design. In the center is a step seat on one of our larger valves with a bolted in step seat. And then on the far right is our tadpole seat, which we can normally achieve about a class 3 shutoff, even in higher temperature applications. Next. Okay, again, where you see a lot of dampers, when people think of dampers, they think of fabricated dampers for more lightweight and ductwork drilling. Ours are a little bit more heavy duty. Rather than just welded in seats, where they're machined to tolerances and put in, either bolted in and also machined into the body. As you can see on the fabricated end of it, a lot of step seats are like rolled angle and so forth, and they do fit a lot of purposes. But when looking for better, tighter shutoff on damper valves, we find that our machine surfaces are a lot better and a better choice for quality than some damper valves. Next.
I'm just going to add that that's why we like, we can fabricate valves as well, like in the picture, but that's one of our favorite pictures because it shows they fail occasionally, the stitch welds all let go, and you're not going to have that type of deformation with our cast product.
Okay, and we're going into our individual products on our cast product. The first one's our Econotrol Series 09. They're only available in 2 to 14 inch. They're only available in like cast body, cast iron disc, pretty much standard materials of construction. We've used them for both HVAC and controlling, some glycol systems, and on coaling tires used as a bypass valve. They're only available with a clearance seat swing through design, and basically the materials we're showing there, the cross section, are only available with some standard materials: bronze bushings, self-lubricated bronze bushings, graphite Teflon packing, and stainless steel packing nuts. Next.
Also, we have a full complement in stock. We usually stock these. They're readily available, pretty quick delivery.
Right. I apologize for that. Actually, that's one of the main reasons we have an Econotrol series is because we machine those on larger quantities. We do have them pretty much available for pretty quick delivery. Okay, the next one we have up is our medium duty series. And you would choose those. Anything over a 12-inch valve would automatically either be a medium duty or an Excel series valve. The medium duty is available from 2 to 24 inch. Again, we use the medium duty. The body on it's more versatile than what you've seen on the Econotrol. We can put several different drillings in there, from 300 to RPM flanges to our standard ANSI 125s, and to also pin or PN drillings. They're available in a multitude of different materials, so that when you need something for higher temperatures, and by that I mean like over 450 degrees is what we figure from 450 degrees and down is cold applications. For these valves, our medium duty goes up to 900 degrees Fahrenheit, and we have several different materials, stainless steel, high temperature iron alloys, and also carbon steel. Next. Okay, another series of ours is our reduced port valve series. I use this a lot when actually we use these to replace a lot of existing valves that matched pipelines where customers found they had too much flow or couldn't get the correct control they needed. They'll be replaced with maybe like an 8x6 reduced port, which is just a valve that'll fit in an 8-inch line and flange, but it'll only have a 6-inch ID. We use them quite a bit where low pressure air control, such as on a burner for a furnace, where it's pretty critical where they have two low fire and high fire positions to meet the correct amount of air going through there with a mix of gas, like natural gas on a lot of furnaces. This, to keep their flame a certain way when they have a high fire and low fire application. Next. Okay, this is our Excel Series 40 damper valve. This particular valve is probably our most versatile valve. We use it for a lot of very high temp applications, up to 1500 degrees. Also, when different seats, again, are available or needed, such as a step seat or angle seat, tadpole seat. The Excel is pretty versatile. The major change on this is there's two stuffing boxes, both in the power end and the idle end. This comes in handy for a lot of reasons. A lot of times when you have a dirty service, maintenance people like to have grease fittings on both ends that service with what we'll do is make a lantern gland for both the inboard bushings, which help them to free them up a lot when you're in a dirty service type application. These are also used with several different inboard bushings, from Maycore ceramic bushings for very high temp service to Metcarb bushings, a more lubricated high temp inboard bushing, and then our standard Teflon and bronze bushings. They're used for, again, dirty service, high temperature applications. They're versatile in that we do a lot on idle ends where we have to possibly have outboard bearings on them to help with vibration problems. Thrust plates that we put on the idle end when we have to have a situation where valves have to be mounted with the shaft in the vertical position. And we also use them to mount limit switches and so forth, or any type of position monitoring system we'll put on the idle end to assure customers that they're not only getting a readout back from their power end or the actuator on the position, but getting a true reading that the valve is actually moving in case they have any kind of problems with either the bracket and linkage setup on the valve or the actuator itself. Next. Okay, and as a good example, this is a good example of what we consider our high temp valve. A lot of people refer to these as a wastegate valve. We use a lot of these on the exhaust side of engines and basically power generators. They're used to create a backflow a lot of times in the exhaust stream. This particular one gives you a good idea of what we do for a lot of high temp applications. This one shows a different type, or what we use a lot in high temp applications is a spring loaded packing follower instead of a standard packing nut follower. The spring loaded makes our packing last, or gives it a longer lifespan, whenever you get some oxidation, when you have temperatures over 1200 degrees with a lot of oxygen present. The thrust plate shown on there, again, for the vertical application, or where the shaft and the valve is mounted with the shaft in a vertical plane. We show a extended bracket and coupling on this one, which is an 8-inch high bracket. What you don't kind of see there is we'll usually put like a Garlock or high temp bracket gasket on there to act as a thermal break. And also this one shows a heat shield underneath the actuator. Next. Okay, here's another shot of a reduced port series. This one might throw you off. We don't, the Series 36 is actually like a double, or I believe a multiple reduced port series valve. When we showed you a reduced port before, I just mentioned like an 8x6. We have done some custom stuff for people to replace valves out in the field that might have had a 16 by 10 inch reduced port valve. So a lot of times you may have them even as far as a triple reduced butterfly valve. And we're able to do this even without the proper casting. The same valve would be used. We'll flame cut a body when we come up with a very custom design like that. So anytime anybody has something, this one would be like very very particular valve that might be a lot different than what our standard or even double reduced port valve is. Next. Okay, this is our combustion valve series 22. We market this as a very economical manual valve. We refer to this as a set and forget valve, much like you'd have in your ductwork at home for a furnace. You want to set and get a certain velocity to get some of your flow reaching out a little further, you know, to another furnace grade or whatever. This just sets a back pressure on it. We use a lot of them for 900 degrees. If you look closely, the body looks familiar. It was the first one in line, which was our Conatrol series. That's what makes it a lot more economical, especially in high temperature service. It's used for only a maximum of 2 psi delta P. It's used just to set once you get a system going and you get your correct flows. It's probably never touched again. And like I said, again, it comes in handy because it's an economical answer. Instead of having to use like a medium duty valve that we will custom make, a lot of these are bodies that are on the shelf. The biggest difference on this, there is no idle end shaft on it, and it's more like a paddle disc. In other words, there's only a power end shaft that holds it to the handle. Next. This is showing when we say about being able to adapt to several different actuators and so forth. We're showing our different catalog shaft configurations from a flatted, keyed to hex ones. The hex one sounds like a different one. We deal with a lot of lineal stroke operators that we use a hex shaft a lot because we can change the rotation of our standard levers in 30-degree increments on there for their positions, starting positions and ending positions. It's used a lot when we have cold applications for three-way valves that we do. And a lot of times when we have a lineal stroke operator, which again we'll use for the same thing, our keyed shaft. And if you look, our catalog keyed shaft is pretty much a longer extension on our keyed shaft. We show that sticking out 5 inches and sometimes even more than that, 6 inches past the valve ears. We use a lot of this when we have an item on a cold application where we bore and key out the actuator itself. Our standard manual gearboxes all have a bored keyway in them, and we'll fit them on a 4-inch bracket. The gearbox will sit on top of that. So that's the 6 inches and 2-inch engagement into the actuator. Our flatted shaft configuration is what we use pretty much, I would say almost 80% of the time. It's used when using quarter turn direct coupled actuators, much like a rack and pinion pneumatic or, you know, a standard industrial electric actuator, much like our Magnus Force electric actuators. And we'll use a slotted coupling and we'll fit it up into the operator. A lot of times we'll use even the flatted shaft for high temp applications. So we give it an additional kind of like a break instead of having a continuous shaft going up to the operator. If we have an 8-inch high bracket, we'll make a slotted coupling and normally fit that 8-inch coupling up into the operator. Next. Oh, one more is our, we also do a standard square shaft, and We use that a lot. Some people have used it for their own or making a custom bracket to fit directly into some of the ISO mounted with the squares. Next.
I'm just going to add though that even though we show these standard lengths and stuff, PDC has always been willing to give custom length shafting as well with those different type of connection methods. It doesn't have to always be a standard, which, you know, a lot of competitors don't want to change their standard shaft offering.
Okay, here we just get a little detail about the different stuffing boxes and stuffing box arrangements in our packing. We offer a variety of packing. Standard is graphite Teflon packing. We also offer a pure Teflon packing, a Teflon chevron V-ring type packing, a high temperature non-asbestos Inconel wire reinforced high temp packing, and for extremely high temperatures, some of our Excel valves are rated up to 1500 degrees. We use a lot of two-piece high temp packing, which consists of the same thing, an Inconel wire reinforced non-asbestos high temp packing for the end rings, and the center rings are just graph oil with no wire in them. They also have oxy inhibitors or corrosion inhibitors to reduce or lengthen the time in when there's oxygen present at over 1,000-degree service. You know, coupled with our spring-loaded packing followers, it makes packing last a little longer on high temp applications. Next. Okay, these are just showing different body options. We went through this a little bit before. If you look at the top, like left-hand side, we offer DIN drilling. That's one of our medium duty or our Excel series bodies. As you can see, that one might be, I think, on even maybe a 300-pound drilling up on the left-hand side there. We do some custom valves. There's one that is our cast valve. You can see that has our cast disc, the bottom left-hand corner, but it's also a custom made where we did a flame cut carbon steel body to make a full flange body for one of our dampers because it was required. We can do that, available in both, as it says there, either a drilled and tapped or a clearance hole through them. On the other side, on the right-hand side, we're showing at the top different type of drillings, and that one particular shows it with an outboard bearing on the end and a grease fitting. The bottom right-hand side shows a custom face-to-face. If you look in our catalog, we do have patterns for all our cast valves. They're a standard length, you know, 2 to 8 inch, 8 inch up to 14 inch, and so forth. Have one standard shaft size in that, but we can make, in order to replace some valves in the field that have a different face-to-face, we can custom make bodies, like I said before, to fit between flanges. That they have to match a different between the flange dimension. Because we have used our valve several times to replace a lot of older damper manufacturers no longer in business. If anybody out there is familiar with Continental Valve, they used to build a pretty heavy duty damper such as ours. In fact, when they closed the shop, you know, probably 40 years ago, we had some Continental's ex-workers that worked for us here. A lot of theirs had a bigger face-to-face. You know, our 24-inch valve, for instance, might only have a 2 3/4 face-to-face, whereas somebody has a damper out there, it's a 4-inch face-to-face, and we can custom make a body to fit that, even though it falls under all the parameters of our standard valve. Next. Okay, here, I think I explained a little bit of this before. These are different idle end options. One of the features of having 2 stuffing boxes with our Excel series valve. As I mentioned before, we can put a independent monitoring system on the idle end. That's the view that you see up on the left-hand top, showing a Westlock limit switch. That could be a position feedback on it, and so forth. On the bottom left-hand side, we're also showing an outboard bearing and a thrust plate. At the bottom end, we use a lot of these for some higher vibration applications. And again, we use the thrust plate. It helps keep our disc centered in the middle so you don't get no drag if somebody has to put a vertical shaft position out in the field. And this one also shows our, I believe that's a packing, well, no, it just shows our standard packing faller. I thought maybe if that was our spring-loaded one or not. On the right-hand side, we show a better view showing that the valve with the shaft in a vertical plane, and they show two views of it on that side. Next. Okay, and again, we had gone over this before with some of our valves. This is a better view that we were talking about, like for high temperature applications and protecting actuators. I know on our standard rack and pinion, which is shown above on that, we do have our standard rack and pinion that we offer with standard seals and high temp seals. That would be the first line of protection. We also use aluminum heat shields that reflect a lot of radiant heat away. Again, the extended bracket and couplings to keep away as far as you can from the pipeline. And also there's the heat gasket that we use between our bracket and the valve ears to keep from some heat that escapes, you know, just from the travel of the heat going through the valve. Gives it another thermal break between the valve and the bracket. Next. And again, this goes to a little more detail of how we can make any type of, you know, custom couplings and brackets. It's a good view that shows several different ones. If you look on the left, we have a picture of a lineal stroke actuator. We have done a lot of those in the past with either Norgren cylinders, Hagen cylinders. There's still a lot, surprisingly enough, it's kind of like an older style that a lot of people still use. This works well with a lot of high temp applications and so forth in extreme heat where they can more or less remote mount it. But we can make brackets to fit both lineal stroke operators such as that. If you look in the top left, you can see basically a standard rectangular tubing bracket or some of our standard C brackets that we have off the shelf that fit a lot of standard ISO mounts. We use a lot of rectangular tubing brackets whenever we're extending brackets or making them to a custom fit somebody's actuator. And on a little in the center of the picture, we're showing different styles we can make of couplings. The first one shows a slotted. Remember before I mentioned about a flatted shaft we use pretty much probably 80% of the time. That one would fit maybe our flatted shaft configuration with it shows a keyed top on it that would fit into probably a board and keyed actuator. We also show the square mount for ISO, and again, the slotted coupling for a flatted shaft to the right. And again, going around the horn there, we're just showing pictures of like what we can do with our three-way valve assemblies and also our direct mounted PDC rack and pinion type actuator that you see on the bottom toward the right. The one in the center shows a valve there. Actually, you can see where we put all our tagging on all our butterfly valves, where we normally put it to put the serial numbers and everything on them. And on this particular one, I think we're showing the Siemens SQM type actuator that we have mounted, which a lot of our combustion people kind of standardize on, a lot of Siemens control stuff, and this is just showing one. Next. Okay, this is into our thread end series butterfly valve. We use a lot of it on smaller ends. Its ranges as sizes from 2 to 4 inch valves. We show two styles of handles we have for this, both our style A handle, which is pictured in the center, and the one that isn't viewed as style C handle that has a plate that shows graduations on it. You know, on the left, again, use a lot of them in combustion systems like 1.5 inch and 2.5 inch. This one's a picture with a Siemens SQ actuator on it. And again, we show one to the right-hand side, looks like it's a manual valve that we can also put a monitor system on because some people do like a feedback on them whenever they have a position on it and so forth, or either just a limit switch showing it's full open and full close. They're available again 2 to 4 inch size. They're good up to 300 degrees with Viton seals in them. Our standard EPT, they're good up to 250 degrees. Most applications we use them for are pretty much ambient air. They're only good for 25 pound containment pressure, and they're only good for up to 5 psi delta P. But they're normally used a lot in combustion systems, where most of it we're dealing is inches of water column. Next.
I guess I'm up now.
Okay, yeah, and this is Ron's takeover now on our check valve.
All right. Hello, I'm Ron Koch. I'm the Chief Engineer / Director of Technology here at PDC. I've been with PDC for 26 years. And give Joe a little bit of a break there. We developed the check valve over the last 3 years, an elastomer hinge style check valve that has a large flow through area and as a more quick acting type of check valve versus the standard seat that's machined in and shuts down. You get a more higher flow through, and we can do that in our standard Buna end, but we also have an EPM, silicone, and Viton seal options. We're incorporating our Elastitight anti-fatigue check layer behind the seat, and I'll show you in the next slide or so that the ability to extend the life of these elastomer hinge check valves was important. And we have an example here where this is an actual example that was local to us that we went to, where you can actually see the flapper valve plate that literally over time the bend line dried out, and eventually it broke away from the check valve and obviously goes down the line somewhere to some point. What we did is design the Elastitight patented check valve, has a layer in it that not only protects that bend line a little better, but also tethers and keeps the valve plates attached to the hinge bar. We kind of show our breakdown here. The layer is, as you can see in the top view, there is the red area. It's sort of a protective area over that sharp bend point when the valves open and close, which can be many times or very very little. They tend that a lot of our competitors don't treat that corner on that pivot. We make sure we machine that pivot in a blunt round area. And the other advantage is when you're sealing on the bore of this valve, which almost matches the exact pipeline bore, you have very large flow through capability. We have obviously a tapered, streamlined hinge bar in there to allow normal flow to come through. And our patented layer also protects from stretch and overbending of those flappers. Again, the idea is there's a nice snug fit to that inner bore. And this picture here shows, we on our cast product, which is to the right, from 2 to 24 inch, we build in a little bit of strength into that body, so any pipe stresses or stuff that may be transferred from the pipeline, it won't deform the sealing surface of the check valve itself. Obviously, it's a fast close angle because we're at 60 degrees open, or 60 degrees in the closed position to fully open to the 90. We also, against our competitors, up to at least 12 inch, we only have one leak path capability, the anchor to the hinge bar, where others are using stop bars, like in the larger ones over to the right. That ends up having 4 possible leak paths, so we try to eliminate that a bit. And also, we build in a nice 4 rib cage structure. For many years I've been told design out all the iron you can, make it as light as you can, but these body walls match the requirements of API 594, and they have that rigidity to not transfer the pipeline stresses to it. The other nice thing is We have bar styles. Once you have a reliable internal, you can transfer that into all different types of, housings, so to speak, or body styles. We can do different materials that way with, like the bottom example. That was like a 1.5 inch with a spring loaded, very small stainless steel. But we could also do that in brass or, other type of metals that a customer may want to do. We also offer a pipe style in thread end, plain round, Victaulic or grooved end, as well, from actually 1.5 to 12 inch. We can do those. And then obviously you can put a flange. We have customers, especially in the air handling groups, that like the flange style, and we can fabricate a check valve with the flanges and install our reliable, again, internal system as part of that. I think that's that for that. I think you're back up, Joe.
Oh, okay. All right. So now we're entering into our newer products that we're promoting, and the first one we're showing is basically a elastomer line rubber line valve, which I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with. Basically, we use a lot of these 150-pound drilling. I've done a lot in HVAC type applications. Use a lot of them also in some air applications. As Ron pointed out to you, one of the biggest usage that we have used with the check valve, and one of the people that use them the most, there's a lot of the blower and compressor manufacturers. We get a lot higher flow than what you normally get on like double door valves, because you have a much higher opening and a more of a CV, more of a flow through the valve. The same thing is used on a lot of air control, because these are kind of streamlined discs. So we use where tight shutoff is required. Normally this is to shut off, like one blower from the other, but it's also used as a tight shutoff for a lot of water systems and HVAC systems. And that's been our where we've used them the most at, because that's where we played with them, or what industry we were into the most. They can also be used in almost any type of industry where a rubber line valve can be put in. They're available with several seats, EPDM, Buna end, Viton, etc. They're available both a flanged end type body, and also I believe as a leg style and a wafer style also. With several drillings, I believe they're available both. We have them both in 125, 150-pound drilling, and they are available, as long as we know about it, in PN drillings. Next. Okay, here we have our Teflon 2-piece butterfly valve. This one's used a lot in corrosive applications and so forth, where you need a Teflon seat. It's a 2-piece body. Basically, in order to be able to even put them together, because there's no give in the Teflon seat, one of the reasons we have a 2-piece body, it's also usually used in very corrosive and bad applications where the seat needs to be changed out a lot. Therefore, it's easier to take the body apart and put a new seat in that way. Next. Okay, this is our double offset wafer style valve, more like a high performance. As you can see, it's available in sizes 2.5-inch up to 48-inch valves. Basically, you can see what they all meet, all the different standards. We use an ISO square shaft that fits most applications and most operators and everything, including our own. Next. Okay, again, it's another version. This is our double offset valve. We use this quite a bit for in the AWWA application sometimes. I've used a lot of them for even on air control management systems and air filtration and wastewater plants for lower pressure and higher pressure. As you can see, they're available 2.5 to 48-inch valves. Basically, they're good up to, well, these ones, as you can see up top, 150, 300, and 600-pound flange drillings. Okay, next. Okay, and then we get into also our high performance valves, 150 and 300 pound drillings. We use these basically, and again, for any type of service, you'll see high performance valves, both in the oil and gas, air control management, again, different type of fluid applications where we have a lot of corrosive stuff, and also for some high temperature applications, meaning when you're out of the fluids and liquids into, you know, over 450 degrees and 600 degrees for tighter shutoffs. Next. Okay, we also offer triple offset, and this one is where we go. We use this a lot to get up to class 6 shutoff. Because we're more into the damper end of things, I deal with a lot of really high temperature air control management systems where we've used a lot of triple offsets in the past over 1,000 degrees to get a class 6 shutoff. We also use a lot of these in the oil and gas industry. We use them. Some of the jobs we've put these on, it seems to be more on the high temperature applications. And again, we're getting into this more and more into the oil and gas stuff. These are available in, we showed as 150-pound drilling, but they're also available in several different drillings, 300 pounds, and I think even higher, up to 600 to 900. Next.
It's usually the choice when you have high pressure and high temperatures at the same time, and you still require to have class 5 or class 6 shutoff.
Correct. Thanks, Ron. Okay, and these are our more larger size flanged AWWA valves. As you can see, sizes up to 50 and 104 inch. Definitely have to consult factory because these aren't always readily available at the time, but every size in between is available. These all meet AWWA for inspection. As you can read there, inspection and testing, the AWWA C504. And again, let's see, excuse me a second. Again, these are available. As you can see, they have pressure ratings in PN6, PN10, and these are available in several different flange drillings, you know, as you get to the larger sizes for AWWA valves. Next. Okay, and these are just our ultra sanitary wafer valves. These are a little bit more lightweight, thinner profile discs, excuse me a second, with polished discs and so forth. We use a lot of these, as it says right there, for pharmaceutical grade, for handling some bulk and powder applications. They have a polished face on the discs and everything, and a smaller seating surface there in order to accommodate handling bulk materials and so forth. Next.
Okay, I believe that's.
Anybody have any questions or?
That's the valve portion of our show.
Correct. There you go. We're done. Anybody have any questions or anything?
Yeah, on your AWWA C504 butterflies, is your resilience seat located on the disc or body?
I believe they had them. Go back to that one, Ron.
Yeah, it's on the bottom.
It's on the body.
On the large size, as you can see on the disc there, they use that segmented sections,
Right, okay.
and then it's bolted to the disc.
Okay, so the resilience seat's on the disc.
How about coatings?
As far as on the disc coatings,
Valve coatings in general, the West Coast, pretty much anything that comes into the West Coast has a UL NSF certified coating on it.
you know what? Let me check with the factory on that and get back to you on it. We have several coatings, and we do a lot. I know on a lot of different products we have done in the past, a couple different coatings, both for valves that were going on like tanks and everything, where they had some specific coatings.
Okay.
Some were stuff we never heard of until we had to look into it to be able to put it on our valves. So yeah, and I do believe that any coating available, and if it's a standard for out there, like, you know, being on the West Coast, then I can understand that, or, you know, I'm sure anywhere offshore and so forth,
Yeah.
it would be available.
How about your ULNSF certification?
Not too sure. I'd have to get back on the factory. Ron, I don't know if you had anything to offer.
I'd have to ask about that one as well.
Right.
Okay, I got one more question for you, and then I'll let you off the hook. How about your California lead-free requirements?
It's the same answer.
Same answer. What I'd have to do is get the certs on when the valve bodies are poured, which, you know, we can get the certification available for any of that, and also on the bar stock.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we're almost done. What we want to do is also introduce you to, we've taken and expanded our lines when it comes to the actuation abilities as well. For many years here, we've the joke is we mount anything. We've put pretty much many of the large mainstream people, the Fisher, the Bettis, the Rotorque, remote control, high torque, we pretty much mounted most all of those different types. But we've decided that when we get customers also ask, can you recommend one that you can carry? And we've decided to build a brand under the Magnus Force brand, and to be able to kind of pick some of the best of everything. And one of the first things we have is our rack and pinion pneumatics. There's many of them out there. These are aluminum extruded bodies, but we do stock a lot of them, and you know, they have all the features that you would really want in this type of pretty simple actuation. We've mounted many times with accessories, and also with like standard seats or Viton seats for temperature, as we kind of touched on a little bit earlier. They're basically, you know, you have a double acting, or you can have a fail-safe version, a spring return version. You have a constant force setup. Some of the good features of it is that there's the more mount, you know, solenoids and there's also the more mount for the accessories on top of the actuator. And we do have two stroke adjusting positions on two stroke adjusting nuts, so you can adjust your open and close up to almost 5 degrees of adjustability on each end of it. You know, it's a very good, reliable pneumatic actuator, and a nice reach from lower torques all the way up to some pretty high torques, actually. Along with that Magnus Force branding is we'd say we have an electric actuator as well. These are those are ISO 5211 mounts on the bottom of the pneumatic, and also ISO 5211 mounts on this electric actuator line that we've developed. We have, you know, standard quarter turn, and the voltages that you can see there, I'm not going to read it, but we have 24 volt up to 220 volt single phase. We can put in position transmitters, and we can also modulate with this gear drive electric actuator. Also, there's an override option on all of them to be able to manually override in certain situations. Also, we have an explosion proof models as well that we can offer that meet the explosion proof requirements. Let's go to this. The other one is, the other side of it is a quarter turn with a spring return for a fail-safe situation, and we do have models that could do that as well. Again, ISO 5211 mounting. It still can be modulated, and you can also have the feedback with it. Let's see, and it's a clutchless gear manual override on these designs. There's about maybe 5 or 6 different designs with these. So it's a little more limited because the spring packs and stuff start to get kind of monstrous to handle, let's just say. And again, under the Magnus Force line of actuation, we've also developed an electro-hydraulic actuator. And the electro-hydraulics are the ability to use the electric power supply, but also give you the fast acting and much higher torque capabilities with the hydraulic cylinder systems. We offer it in 3 different versions: the linear stroke, we also have a rack and pinion, and we also have a Scotch yoke rotary style as well. some of the features of it is it only acts when we require electrical power to move it. There's no hysteresis involved. It's very, very accurate to be able to get to certain position points. And we can do an accumulator style as well. We have in the past had an accumulator style, but the real key to the Magnus Force Electro-Hydraulic is everything is self-contained and right at the actuator. There are no feeder lines or the ability to bring in contaminants into the system. They use a common system. There's a control box, obviously, with a power module set up that's a motor-driven pump setup, and then we can drive all three of those setups: a linear stroke, a Scotch yoke style, or a rack and pinion style. On the Scotch yoke and the linear, you can incorporate the spring module fail safe with it, and also on the rack and pinion, you can incorporate a fail safe, but it would be an accumulator type of system, which I have some pictures here right at the end that we can show you. But you have the ability to have a fail safe system incorporated into the electro-hydraulic system. I'm not going to go through all the pictures, but basically that's showing you the internal and the concept. We use the same pump power module drive system to drive the cylinder system that will drive a Scotch yoke, which is the MSS, the rack and pinion, which also you can do 90 degree to 120, but you have a constant torque situation versus on the advantage of the Scotch yoke style, you can have a finish and a beginning torque that's a little bit higher, which tends to correspond obviously with opening and closing some of these higher torque required types of high performance valves. And the linear stroke, there are at least 4 or 5 different standard lengths, but then also we can customize the lengths of that system as well. Again, the idea is to be able to drive it with one power module system setup, but be able to give you the 3 different types. Again, this is just giving you a cutaway to see the spring fail option setup where, just shows you it's initiated by the loss of electrical power or a trip signal. This summarizes a bit about our voltage offerings in 3-phase and single phase. We are in the process of not only NEMA 4 but explosion proof finalization of for explosion proof qualification. The smallest is a 1 horsepower all the way up to 4 horsepower, and with a torque range from 5K to 800K inch-pounds on the rotary, and then obviously the linear is 25K to 200,000 linear pounds of force. And again, all of them can have a sum torque type of fail-safe system built into them. Here's an example of a linear one. Just before the before was a manual, and then we incorporated a linear style electro-hydraulic to be able to operate that valve. And this is an example of the rotary. Rotary with the accumulator style on it, showing the fail-safe and integrating the accumulator style, which would give you multiple on-off options if you lose your main power supply. Again, it's a versatile precision, the ability to develop high torques with a variable or various supply feeds for electric feed. I believe that's it, right? I believe that's our actuation offering. So what we could do now is, if there are other questions, we can answer some other questions. I'll stop the sharing here. Is everyone still with us? We try to do it faster today.
So guys, I hope this was, this was helpful. You understand a little bit more about the length and depth of the product offerings from PDC. And, if there's any questions we can answer either today or by email, or you would like to have a separate, one-on-one call, happy to do that. So, just let us know if you have any questions.
Are you going to making the presentation available to people too if they want to?
Yeah, that's the other thing. We have a Dropbox set up where we have collateral and information available, including, pictures and images and, some documents and this particular PowerPoint. So we'll share it through Dropbox. If you would like a link to that Dropbox, please send me an email, and we'll get you on that Dropbox. I will also mention that we are in the process of creating brand new brochures that are organized, a different way. And the same thing with the website. It's being completely redesigned, and we hope for all of this to happen in the next 4 to 6 weeks. So we're going through a fairly large branding exercise right now. All right, if there are no more questions, we will end early. And thank you, everyone, for being on the call.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Take care, guys.